It is shaping up to be an incredible week this week. I'll tell you why in this video when we take a look at the charts for the NASDAQ 100, S&P 500, and the Russell 2000 stocks using ETFs that track them. But then I'll also talk about two stocks that could potentially even still 2x from where they're at right now, potentially even more than that over longer time periods. I think that they are ones that might even be at some point in the future investable from where they're at right now, beyond just tradable for the momentum that they currently carry. So those two stocks, by the way, are TDOC, TDOC, and BBAI. I'll tell you what I'm seeing in the charts and give you updates on both of those as I have talked about them before. And if you guys want to see more of my technicals, my buys and sells that I do, I'm one of the experts over at the Discord. There's 1,000 members over there already. Sign up using the link in the description. Use the earner tier, use code word doctor. That's going to get you unrestricted access to everything that is offered to the community over there at the Discord. Guys, let's jump into the charts. So this week we have non-farm payrolls and unemployment coming out on Thursday, not Friday. We also have ISM services this week. We also have JOLTS on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Labor market could affect some of this movement that we're currently seeing, those labor market reports. So as long as they stay status quo, nothing goes sideways with those, the general direction for the market is still up. We do, as we look at QQQ on the daily chart here, we do have this gap to fill down to about 532. And you can expect any amount of noise to come in and send us back down before bouncing back up. Like I said, I think the general direction is up. And of course, we could see some volatility going back the other way over time. So what do I think is going to happen for this week? Well, I think having that long weekend coming up, having that shortened day on Thursday, that's potentially leading to lower trading volumes. However, I think that people are going to want to lock in those profits that they see this week. So if we have a nice strong week running up to Thursday, Thursday could be that day that we get a bit of a sell-off. I mean, it really does depend. It's a bit of a nuanced position, but I could see that as being something potential to happen. If we do happen to sell off, maybe we go back and we revisit the previous all-time high. That's going to be pretty important to us. So we also have a trend line, by the way, that goes across the top of this thing that we're currently sitting on top of. And I know that there's a bit of noise here, but I will say that that trend line off the previous peaks, we crossed above it going back to Thursday of last week. And then Friday, we sat on top of it as well. Let me get rid of that just so you can see more clearly what that is. And this previous channel that we happen to find ourselves in, that can also serve as support for us as we're currently trading pretty well above that. So maybe we pull back to the mid 540s or something by the end of the week. Now, mind you, we don't have to. We could definitely keep on rolling. We could definitely keep on running. I just think from an option standpoint, sweating the weekend risk through that July 4th weekend, I don't know that there's a lot of necessity to do so, especially when you can cash out leading up to that Thursday that comes along and then jump back in on Monday, start fresh, maybe even from a reduced price position and catching that next little ride upward for the traders that are out there. So SPY, much the same look that we have here, still a small gap to fill down to 601. And we are, once again, we're above the trend line peaks on this one as well. Actually, I'm sorry. No, we're not. This one, we're not quite up to that trend line, which happens right at about 620. And this morning, we're at 614.91. So we're less than 1% away from that. And if you're day trading, maybe you can expect a rejection off of that. But once again, just for SPY, just like with the Qs, general direction's up. IWM's the really exciting one because we are at that point where we're above this blue 20-day. We have just crossed and held as support the 200-day. That is a very bullish thing to watch for. We could potentially see some outperformance from those Russell 2000 stocks. And then that golden cross situation where this 50 comes up and crosses the 200 is absolutely massive for bullishness. Now, we might get the 20 over the 200 sometime soon. We probably will. And when we do that, that is also a bullish thing. Not as big as 50 over 200, but the structure is there. Take a look back here at the Qs just for a moment. I'll reset the view and take down these lines. Right there is the golden cross moment that you see, and you can see all the movement that led up to it at that time. Well, we're like back here for the Qs is like where we're at right now for IWM, and you can see the run that happened and then the golden cross that followed. So over here for SPY, let's take down the EMAs, put up the SMAs, and we'll also take down the few technicals that I've drawn on here. Getting to that golden cross moment, but it's a lagging indicator. As you can see, that cross that we got, we didn't quite touch support back here on the May 23rd, but look at the movement that we got, the price appreciation for the S&P 500 stocks before finally getting that crossover between the 50 and the 200, that golden cross moment. Look where we are right now for the Russell 2000 stocks. We are at the 200 day with the 20 coming up, with the 50 coming up. later on, this could lead to that golden cross moment, but I think now is that key time to take advantage of that potential that's moving forward. Now, mind you, wait, not financial advice. I'll never tell you what to buy or sell, but I'm saying for myself and for your education that now is that time that people will be looking for that golden cross moment to move as we move into, well, what is actually a bullish position on the Russell 2000 stocks through IWM. Bullish because we're above that 200-day moving average, whereas being below it could seem more like longer term at bearish action that we have with the prices. So the price action moving up above it is a very strong thing. And in more of a momentum side of things, we're above the 5, the 13, and the 50. And we're also for RSI up above 60 as well. So guys, the markets are actually sitting pretty right now. So the NASDAQ 100, S&P 500, Russell 2000, like I said, general direction, I believe is up. And I think that we're going to continue to see that throughout this week. We'll find out what we get, labor markets aside, also tariff news aside, geopolitical risk aside. So as far as the technicals go, the technicals are currently spelling out that we have a nice little ride to enjoy. And I don't think that we change direction unless there's some outside action that causes us to change direction. So we're watching for those. I think labor market reports are those big ones this week. Now, I do want to get into those two stocks, TDOC and Big Bear AI, TDOC and BBAI, and wait till you see the charts that are on those, and we'll talk more about longer term trends for each of them. So I have made them near term tradable. However, are they going to be long term investable? To answer that question is a much longer video for a much later time. Well, not much later, just later than today, not really today's video. But I will release the technicals that I find, the findings that I have over at the Discord. The link is down in the description. I have an expert channel over there as I'm one of the expert panelists. And when you sign up using the earner tier, using code word doctor, you get 50% off your first month sign up. You get to try it out for less than $1 a day to join the 1,000 members who are already over there, to have a community support you through your journey towards financial freedom or building alpha in your portfolio. And if you guys want to learn more about the impact of the technicals that I share here, how to use options to really amp up the alpha in your portfolio, there's some coursework through Stockmo Academy. Code word doctor will also get you a discount on that as well, but it is a lifetime access once you pay for those courses. So it's a one-time fee, lifetime access. And so the discount does work a little bit differently, but it is a massive and incredible discount. You can at least try it out and see what you think. And if you bundle the two courses, that's also going to give you an even deeper discount than buying those courses individually with that code word doctor as well. Guys, I want to jump into the charts. Join us over at the Discord. So popping this up here for you, let's go to TDOC first. And for TDOC, we recently, over the past 5 days, last week on Monday, we got that big old volume that put us above the 50 and the 200 for these simple moving averages. I said that's igniting volume. We could potentially see upside from here. And we popped up and then retraced, and then got that next leg on this before stalling out right around that $9 mark, which happens to be right where that 200 SMA is. It's also where, just shy of where you find the 200 EMA also being up there. But there's a little bit more if you zoom out and look left over here. It's towards the bottom of the screen here. I'll move it up towards the middle for you. There we go. You can see all the chop that we have around here, that there's a lot of mixed feelings about where we go from that approximate $9 mark right now up until we get north of $10. And then after that, this thing starts to move a lot more northward for us. Now, I will say, even if we take down the EMAs, so that way we can take a look in here and see more accurately with less noise on the chart. There we go. We have a gap to fill up to $10, and I'll give you the exact penny here, $10.80. So moving up from where we're at right now, that is, in the pre-market right now, we're at $8.67. So we have another $2.13 to go in order to get all the way up to that $10.80. That's about 25% upside just to fill that gap. So if we zoom out a bit more on here and go farther to the left, $20.22, about 2.5 times where it currently sits. There's another gap to fill. And I do think that for the momentum side of things, that we could be pushing up pretty easily to get that 25% that I talked about originally. However, to get that 2.5 times, I think we're going to have something that's fundamentally different for TDOC. And I think that the pandemic time for telehealth, telemedicine, that was the hype stock where a lot of money went for speculating on that huge potential that there was going to be a massive shift that way. And I think that there could still be a massive shift that way. I think it's going to be a little bit slower of a creep rather than an immediate pandemically driven shift over to telehealth and telemedicine. I think that we could see a growth into that space because of the cost effectiveness of doing so on behalf of the hospitals and on behalf of the consumers with the rising cost of healthcare. I think this is one way that it could help alleviate some of those costs and really help to scale things on the hospital side of things. And I think it could drive that business over to TDOC, which means that this is a potential where you could find an investable asset at some point in the future. So for TDOC, near term, I think we could still have some wild movements from where we're at right now. Long term, I think it gets even wilder, that we could see an even larger outsized return over time. And I have started to get my beak wet with it, if you will. And then, guys, I do want to get into BBAI. So this one currently moving on momentum, being touted as the next Palantir. And people are very excited about that because Palantir, just to stop by Palantir's charts real quick, and then we'll come back to BBAI. I would like to remind you of the movement that Palantir has made from the lows that we saw going all the way back to January of 2023, when this thing was trading for like $6 a share and then peaking out at about $150 per share. That sort of return makes people's mouths water. Definitely makes my mouth water looking at that. So if we go to BBAI, it hasn't had that story, but it does look from a chart standpoint like it is beginning to look that way, that we're starting to get that curve. And you can also see the volumes starting to trend that way as well, that the excitement is starting to hit, going all the way back to December of 2024, all the way up through June of 2025. Today's the last trading day of that. And today could be another massive volume day, by the way. Just incredibly, over 3 billion shares traded. When we go back to December, that was 1.27 billion shares traded. So we're maybe closing in on a 3x in trading volumes from December to June. And if we go just 1 month before that, we're at 221 million shares traded for the entire month of November. So for this one, you can see the last time we peaked out on this, it was right around, actually I can tell you the exact number, $10.36. And we're currently sitting at $6.29 with much more rampant volumes than we saw before. And now the hype going into it as the next Palantir. So I've been talking about this since May 20th. I talked about it before that as well, but more recently, May 20th as one of the best penny stocks to buy now. And it might even turn into one of those companies that's another diamond in the rough company that fits its own niche in the AI space, AI infrastructure space, in terms of the software that it provides, not necessarily on the hardware side, but it does cover things like defense contracts, among other things. And there's some research that I need to do on my end, but this is one that has enough momentum that can put in at least another 60% from where it's at right now. Options can help us to leverage that and get even bigger outsized gains from where we're at right now without breaking the bank, but they do have some pretty high inherent risks on top of the fact that it's already a penny stock that doesn't necessarily have the finances to prove its worth right now, but that is something that's speculated to be built out over time. So BBAI, from a monthly chart standpoint, we are on top of the 20-month. We actually pulled all the way back in April, all the way down to that 20-month. And that happened to be right at that low price, $2.36. This morning, we're trading at $6.29 from a weekly basis. There we go. Looking at the weekly chart, we actually pulled back last week all the way down below the 20-week. But if you notice, we actually have the 50 creeping up on the 200. That golden cross moment could be coming, which is a very bullish sign. And the fact that we're up above that 200 week already is also very bullish for the stock. If we go down to the daily chart, you can see the 20 above the 50, above the 200. That's the exact structure that we're looking for to show that there is bullish sentiment right now for BBAI. And once again, this is the daily chart. And this movement that we have, we're actually pulling up on some pretty significant resistance that starts right around the mid sixes. So 652 all the way up to 672. But I think that maybe we get rejected at that initially before pushing higher to go through it. And, we're going to have to watch and see if that's exactly what we get, is that push through it. But I think that we will. I think that there's enough excitement in this that we actually take it back all the way up to that $10 mark. And now, mind you, the market bias also plays a role in this. So the markets do have to remain, the overall indices that we're looking at do have to remain in strong bullish territory as well. And this being a penny stock is probably also going to ride somewhat the same waves as the rest of it, maybe a little bit disjointed because it could be a little bit more sensitive to hype than what we'd have for the larger companies that are out there. So guys, let me know what you think about the indices. Are they going to continue to climb up from where we're at right now? And then what about TDOC? Do you see any sort of future for them? Or are they just a company that just has some momentum right now, some hype right now, and is just going to fall back off the face of the earth? Or is it going to turn into something that's an actual investable asset? And then what about Big Bear AI? Once again, are we just in the hype phase and then this thing comes crashing back down? Or are we finding ourselves another diamond in the rough stock that's going to have a 20x like we did for Palantir? Hit me up down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Also, meet me over at the Discord, code word doctor, when you sign up for that earner tier, and then take advantage of those courses so that you know how to read the technicals, you know how to trade them using the bread recipe, which is the strategy that I use when I trade, and take that options course as well so that you also know how they can play a vital role in taking advantage of the market movements that you see, not only when they're bullish, but also when they're bearish, that you can use them to get those outsized gains, to protect your capital, to take advantage of volatility, to take advantage of a lack of volatility. There's just a seemingly endless amount of strategies that you can do through the use of options. And you guys can find about that and the technicals down in the coursework through Stockmo Academy. Guys, thanks for watching. I am Dr. Stock, Doctor of Education. Remember, my friends, that learning is earning. We'll see you next video.